This is Pod Populi, podcasts for the people.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the FemForce podcast. My name is Rachel Paskman, and I am your host. And today I am really excited because I get to be joined by Diane Lang. And she is an author, a self-help expert, a coach, and an educator. And today we're going to be talking a lot about the journey of self-worth, personal healing, and some practical tools for feeling better, which I think is something, especially in today's day and age, that we could all use right now. So thank you so much for being here, Diane. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
So, can you share a little bit about your background and what led you to this kind of work?
Sure. So I've been in the field for about 25 years, showing my age. And I started in the field because I came from a dysfunctional childhood that was really tough. Then all these insecurities and fears came with me through the teen years and middle school and high school, which could be tough enough. But when you come from that kind of background, makes it worse. And then when I hit my 20s, I realized that, you know what, I want to heal myself. And when I went through the healing process, of course, makes you realize how much you want to help others. And I've been teaching college for about 25 years. I learned that with my students too. You always see them like as psych majors, and I'm like, okay, what have you been through? And they're like, how do you know? I'm like, why else would you be here? You know, usually don't go into this field unless you've really been through something. So it really comes from my own background. And I went and got my master's in counseling. Have worked in the field in various ways, from counseling to coaching to teaching college to writing books on the topic, as well as speaking on it. So just really trying to help people to love themselves, because the root of most people's issues, especially females, is unworthiness. So really just trying to help people to feel their self-worth and their self-love.
And I mean, it's so sad, and I can't imagine aging myself also. Like, social media didn't really pop off here until I was going to college. I was like the second year of Facebook when you needed an EDU and all of that. And now Instagram, TikTok, everything is filmed, everything is filtered and content created. And I can only imagine that that has to have had such a profound effect on the youth and their worthiness, because you're looking at these different lives that are just filtered and, augmented and everything else.
You know, I see it with my college students. Absolutely. I see it with my own daughter, who's that age as well. But the truth is, I'm seeing it in a lot of older women, even women in their 60s, 70s, late 70s. They're on social media as much as the young kids. Now, we weren't raised with it. You know, I still remember, a flip phone or a keyboard phone, or even, going to show my age, a pager.
Love my heart. Love that.
Yes, the pager, like I still remember all of that. But because they're on it, like I have clients who actually are having problems with their kids. We have that low contact, no contact. And they'll be like, I was on Facebook and I'm watching my friends who are in Disney with their kids and grandkids. Why isn't that me? So across the ages, no matter where you are, younger adulthood, middle adulthood, or late adulthood, it's affecting our self-worth. So social media, no matter what platform you're on, absolutely, we know it causes FOMO, that fear of missing out, which can affect our self-worth and our insecurities, but it also really makes us compare ourselves to others. And not like when we were growing up and we compare ourselves to Jennifer Aniston on Friends, or the cover of a magazine where you knew, hey, they're on TV, they're a model, they have personal trainers, they have chef, they have a makeup artist. Now you're comparing yourself to the person you went to high school with or college with, or the neighbor down the road, or a friend that you don't really talk to anymore. And we're always like, why is their life better? Or, why are they doing this and I'm not? And it really, between the missing out and comparing ourselves, it could really send us into a loop of really feeling insecure, doubting ourselves, and really just feeling low self-esteem. So digital detox is really important for anybody who's really dealing with low self-worth. And it could be what you're dealing with in general. Or of course, we have, life's a roller coaster, right? Sometimes things are really good and you're feeling good, but then something can trigger it and things could go bad and you could be at a rock bottom, and it brings you right back to that low self-worth, even from childhood. So we want to be careful or be mindful of what we're going through, what we're feeling when we hop on social media and we start scrolling, because it absolutely affects us.
I mean, I definitely feel like it even affects me, for crying out loud. Like, I think sometimes I'm like, the imposter syndrome, like that, I say it is embedded so deep into us, because I am a capital P professional. I am good at what I do. I'm great at what I do. I'm a phenomenal friend and family man, all the things, but like I will self-doubt myself for the littlest thing. Applying to a job when I was doing that and I got laid off and I was like, I'm never going to get a job.
Hmm.
I'm like, but I will because I'm great. But it's that self-doubt, it's just embedded in us so deep in there that it's scary really to think about.
It is. And, some people have imposter syndrome when it comes to professional. Others have that people pleasing, or females can have that good girl syndrome where we just feel that we're not good enough and we have to make sure everybody else is happy, even at the detriment of our own mental health, even though we're becoming stressed out and resentful and angry and bitter. We keep doing it. And we do because we get that instant relief. Oh, they're not mad at me. Phew. Everything's
Yeah.
okay. They're not going to say something behind my back or get everybody in my family or friendships, mad at me. And it gives you that instant relief. But then a few hours or a few days later, then you start feeling angry at yourself for putting yourself through that, knowing because you can logically know you know better, but emotionally not connect to it or not even
Hmm.
realize the habit of doing it. Because for some of us, it's such a habit. We've been doing it for 20, 30
Yeah.
years just like saying I'm sorry too often or are you mad at me, those kinds of things. It's just sometimes a habit. It's a learned trait. Kind of goes like self-care again, showing my age, but in even today you're starting to see it a little more, but most of us weren't raised with parents or grandparents or aunts who were like, oh, I'm going to go get a massage, or you know what, I'm going to make sure I eat well because that's self-care. None of us did that, so we weren't even learning it growing up.
Yeah.
Now we're starting to change it as moms. We're like, okay, self-care is important, and not only should I do it for myself, but I want to teach my kids that they need to do it so they don't hit burnout, whether it's corporate burnout, family burnout, whatever it is, whatever's going on in the world, the way we had pandemic burnout. We don't want to go down that road, so we know better. But growing up, whether you're in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, we didn't do it. We're just starting to change and make that shift. So hopefully the newer generations, Alpha, what is it, Alpha Z, Gen Z and the Alpha generation.
Yeah.
I always get that wrong. I'm a Gen X, so
That's cool. I can never
after
keep
that,
track of who's who.
I'm like, after the millennials, I start forgetting who's who, but the newer generations will hopefully take better care of themselves than we did.
I mean, you see it though now, like they're setting really, really strict boundaries when it comes to work-life balance and,
Mhm.
really advocating for their mental health and for remote work and things that where they know their life is going to be better. When I
Yeah.
feel like millennials, we were and are so a part of like the hustle culture and the girl boss culture, and we're doing it all and we're trying. And I mean, I still have that. I have to like remind myself to like schedule in self-care and
Mhm.
like do that kind of stuff. And I feel like the millennial generation was really bred to be as A type as possible.
Yeah, and that would be our fault as Gen Xers because, we all switch it. Like baby boomers, when you think of females, their whole world was wrapped around their kids and their spouse. They didn't even take care of themselves. Then Gen X came in and we're like, well, we're the latchkey. No one's here anyway. So we have to do everything ourselves. And that's where we
Mhm.
became so independent and fierce and like, I got to get everything done and I got to make money and I got to do this and I got to do that. And we passed it down. But the millennials started with the minimalism, which I do see with my college students, where they, like you said, they would rather work less hours and live in a tiny home and not have as much stuff like we did in, you know, unfortunately, Gen X's was all the material world.
Yeah.
But they have realized that's not important, which it's really not. Happiness is not based on things. It's not based on money, unless, of course, you have zero money and you're worried about rent and food. Then yes, making more money obviously will make you happy. But if your basic needs are met and you're in a comfortable income, which varies depending where you live in the United States, your happiness only goes up by about 5%. So if I'm making 110 living in the New York City area as a single person, and then I go up to 300,000 or 5 million, my happiness only goes up by 5%. So
Oh,
I think
wow.
they're onto something. They know that that stuff doesn't make us happy. We don't need to keep up with the Joneses. We need to find more memories, experiences. That's what actually does bring happiness, have a sense of purpose. And they are taking on that role better than boomers, Gen X, millennials started the change of minimalism. But I think you're right. The next generations really are, grasping that and doing better.
Oh yeah, and it's really resonating with your message of like I am worthy, I am enough, I am love, which is your core message. And when did you really recognize that this was your message? What was the turning point for you realizing that your own worth?
Honestly, it's been an on and off journey. I wish I could say, oh, I realized it like 20 years ago, but that's not the case.
Yeah.
I was in graduate school in my mid 20s when my father passed away. And that was the first time that I was like, okay, I really need to do something because it threw me off, him dying so young and our lack of relationship and the neglect. And I was like, I really have to deal with this. And I put myself through counseling while in graduate school for counseling. And if you're ever in like graduate school for psych, counseling, social work, it's like an expensive form of counseling. So it was like double whammy at the same time.
Yeah.
But it really helped me. And I really thought I was better for a few years. And then my mother's still alive and there was issues there and then issues with my own. So it's been an on and off journey. But midlife, as much as we don't like midlife or the gray hair, the wrinkles and
Hmm.
all that comes with it, there's a lot of really good. And I'd say like your 40s, we call it the U shape in psych, where you come in and you hit this kind of, you go down the U, the letter U, and then you hit like this rock bottom in your 40s. Not everybody, we're always generalizing with statistics, but a lot of people do. And then in your 50s, late 40s, early 50s, you start moving up. And around like 50s, early 50s, you really get somewhat of a confidence boost. And when I first started counseling, I guess I was like 28, 29. I had a few clients come in and say, you know what, I hit like 51 or 52, and all of a sudden I just didn't give a shit what anybody thought of me. And I was like, I can't even imagine that. And now that I'm in that age range, I'm like, wow, that's 100% true because you have the experience, you have the wisdom, you build up on your confidence. But in the early to mid 40s, a lot of people have this kind of like identity crisis of like, okay, in my 20s, I decided this is what my life's going to look like. I'm going to have this job, this many
Yeah.
kids, live here, make this much money. And sometimes in your 40s, some people go, wow, I got that, but it's not what I thought it would be, and I'm not happy. Others go, well, my life didn't work out like I thought. I'm divorced, the job didn't work out, I didn't have the kids, whatever it is. You have this kind of identity crisis of, well, what's next? Or you have empty nest syndrome where people start going, now my kids are gone, what do I do? Or they're in college. There's various reasons, plus perimenopause, menopause, and andropause for men,
All the fun.
which causes, right, all the hormonal issues. So it's kind of almost like puberty, but done in a different capacity, hormones and identity crisis, because that's what teenage years are about. Identity confusion and, puberty. And for us, it's menopause, perimenopause, or andropause, as well as who am I now? So
Yeah.
then it starts going up, and then the peak of happiness starts at 60. So we do have a lot to look forward to, surprisingly, and we're living much longer than we ever have healthy and happy. So it doesn't matter what age you are, because I always felt like, oh my God, I had to wait till like my 40s to get better self-worth. And I mean, I had bouts of good, it went up and down,
Yeah, of
but
course.
to really feel it. But you know what? It doesn't matter as long as you do it and you work on it, and the first thing is obviously being self-aware of how unworthiness shows up for you. That's one of the things I talk about in my book in the beginning because it shows up so different. Like you said, it's imposter syndrome for you. For me, it's people pleasing. For others, it's keeping up with the Joneses. For others, it's always comparing themselves, or it could be the mix. Perfectionism is another big one. So we all have it come out in different ways, but just noticing it. Because if you're not self-aware and you're just going through the learned traits over and over again on autopilot and just realizing, well, I feel stuck or I'm not happy, you have to be able to figure out what's going on. And also looking at your relationships. If you have a lot of unhealthy, toxic relationships, that's another sign. You don't have the boundaries. You don't say no. You don't do self-care. You don't ask for help. There's all these signs. Yeah, no, all of
Yep.
us. I'm a recovering people pleaser, without a doubt. And it was one of the hardest things I've ever done. But it's becoming self-aware is the first key.
And then from there, I'm assuming that's how you start to shift your mindset from, self-doubt to self-acceptance because you're aware of what the issues are that you have personally.
Yeah, it was definitely the first step is being self-aware. And in some of it, I didn't even recognize. Like I didn't recognize I didn't have boundaries or that I was saying I'm sorry all the time because it was such a learned habit to do it that it took a real lot of awareness and self-reflection and even asking the right questions to people I was close to, like, do I always say I'm sorry? Or, because
Mhm.
I wasn't even sure, like,
Yeah.
about some of it because you doubt yourself. So it's really about self-aware, self-reflection, and finding out how it shows up for you. And then from that point, I started challenging a lot of my negative beliefs. Where is this coming from, this belief system? Because belief systems, we get them between like birth, 7, 8, 9 years old. So your belief systems are so ingrained no matter what age you are. So it's like a downloaded computer program. It's been there for so long, it becomes autopilot. And a lot of the belief systems you're holding on to are not even yours. Like my belief system was always, why you're so stupid. Why are you so stupid? And when I would think back
Yeah.
to it, I realized it's because that's all I ever heard my father say to me. Why are you so stupid? You're so stupid, since my earliest memories, single digits. So it was never even really about my intelligence. I mean, back in the 70s at 3, 4 years old, we had nursery school. There was no preschool. There was no curriculum. It wasn't about
Yeah.
an IQ. I was walking and talking, doing all the milestones at the right time. It was just what he went through. It was a learned trait from him. And that's what we do. We follow that generational cycle, which, once you're aware, you can break as well, which is the good news. You don't have to follow in it as a parent, but it's hard to see it because it's been there for so long. So once you're aware, then you can start challenging it. Like, is this really true? Is this is this based on truth? Am I really, talking about something that I dealt with, or is this just something I kept hearing over and over again that's coming from what he's been through or she's been through? Is it a reflection of what their life was like? And they're just putting it on us, but we're holding on to it. And if you're holding it on from childhood, what could you have actually done wrong? Think about it. Like, as kids, if you were put up for adoption or you were neglected, 2, 3 years old, they blame ourselves. What would a 2 or 3, 4 or 5 year old ever do wrong to deserve that?
Yeah.
But we'll blame ourselves because we've been told it so often. And that's all belief is. It's, a thought that you have over and over again because you heard it over and over again, whether it's from your parents, bullying, bad, unhealthy relationships, intimacy relationship, whatever it is. But it's becoming aware and then starting to challenge it is really important.
And I have to feel like, I mean, you have all of these things going on, and like you said, it's so ingrained in you, and it's from so many different outside sources, so it's kind of surrounding you. How can someone recognize when their self-worth needs attention?
Well, a few different ways. One is looking at your relationships around you. That's one of the easiest ways because you can notice, and we are aware when our relationships aren't healthy. And it doesn't mean all of your relationships are unhealthy. You can have a mix, but it's knowing when you feel that the relationship that you're getting taken advantage of, or that you're the one who's always asking, who's always being asked to do everything, and you're feeling resentful, starting to feel stressed, you're angry but you're not saying anything. So that's one sign. Another sign you could do is kind of like a CBT exercise, where for a week, I have some clients do this. You can write it, in a post-it, or you can use your phone. Just start being mindful of what's circling in your brain when you have a moment of downtime. So like when you first wake up in the morning or right before you go to bed, what starts circling? When you are out at lunch, you're driving in the car and there's no music on. When someone hurts your feelings, they don't say hi to you at work, you get a bad review, a friend doesn't call you back. What's the story that keeps coming up? Nobody likes me. I'm not good enough. Did I do something wrong? Start being mindful of it, because if you hear a repetitive, and you don't have to be mindful of every word, we have like
Yeah.
60,000 thoughts a day, that'd be exhausting. But just being mindful of the repetitive words and phrases that are negative that you keep repeating. And that can help you see what keeps going on. And then you can go, where did that come from? Now, sometimes where it comes from helps you to process it or realize how it's not personal. You took it personal, but it was really never about you. Other times it might not be as helpful, but you still have to heal and process through it. I love this exercise that I have a lot of my clients do. It's called the stick figure exercise.
Okay.
And very simple exercise. So it's just taking a piece of paper, going old school, pen and paper, and you can either draw a stick figure. If you're talented, you could draw a picture of yourself or put a picture of yourself, however you want. And to one side of it, you just want to write down all of your roles and duties and, descriptions, whether, mom, sister, best friend, vegan, Democrat, whatever it is, writing down all your roles. Then on the other side, you want to write down all of your accomplishments. Now, if you're in your 40s or 50s, this could take a while and it could take days, because you forget even accomplishments like, oh, I have my driver's license. Oh, I was a lifeguard. I had my lifeguard
Yeah.
certification. I was a cheerleader, whatever it is. You'll forget because it's been, and take your time with this. Just write it out. And then on the bottom, just write out all of your skills, your quality traits, everything from, you know, loyalty to empathetic to, responsible, whatever it is. You can put Microsoft Word, Excel, everything you want.
Yeah.
And when you see the big picture, and again, this could take a few days, so there's no pressure, you can actually see how much you actually do and what your worth is because you see it. We're very good at catastrophizing. One little wrong thing goes on in our life, we think everything sucks. So if we're having a bad friendship and, we stop talking, now everybody doesn't like me, where that's not the truth. Or I got fired from my job or laid off. I didn't get the job I wanted, the promotion. Oh, I must be horrible, imposter syndrome. But when you see everything, you actually see your work because you're like, well, look how many roles and responsibilities I have on a daily basis that I get through. Look at all my accomplishments. What do I mean that I'm not good enough or I'm stupid or not smart enough?
Yeah.
Look at this. And look at my quality traits. And if you're not aware of your own quality traits, ask people who are unconditional in your life. It could be your spouse, your kids, your parents, whoever that is. What are some of my quality traits? Oh, you're a really great listener. You're the person I always go to because you listen so well and give eye contact, and you're very empathetic and kind and compassionate. And again, it might sound weird to you. And when you first see it, you're like, I'm not sure about this, but start looking at it every day and keep adding on to it. And you start realizing who you really are. Because again, most of our belief systems are not based on truth or fact. They're just things we heard or who we might have been at one time. Maybe that's who you really were 20 years ago. Doesn't mean it's who you are today.
I feel like it has to be like such a great exercise to help clients break free from that negative talk because you can see it as the whole picture.
It is. And it goes along with this other exercise. I always like to give tools so people can do this at their own home, is doing a self-compassion exercise. After you be mindful for a week and know how you talk to yourself, then do that friendship self-compassion exercise. Write down some of the things you say to yourself. And then ask if your best friend or your sister, somebody you loved, was talking to you the way you talk to yourself, what would you say? And how would you respond? Like if your best friend came to you and said, I didn't get the job. How would you truly act? You'd probably give them a hug, tell them how great they are, tell them what's coming next, and you would genuinely mean it. But if it was your own, you'd be like, I'm just a loser. What's wrong with me? I'm not smart enough. I should have said this.
Yeah.
No one's going to hire me. And you start realizing that I'm not even treating myself the way I would treat somebody I love, which is showing me that something's missing.
Yeah.
And you end up bullying yourself. I mean, just some of the things we say to ourselves and all that negative self-talk keeps you stuck. And also your inner world is a reflection of your outer world. So if you're always thinking negative things, that's what you're going to see. And happiness is a perspective. Where do I put my attention and focus? Yes, bad things will happen. I mean, COVID happened, right? We didn't have a choice of it. The economy might crash. So externally things can go bad. Internally things will go bad. But there's always good in a bad situation. And there's also purpose in painful situations. And there's also the ability to have post-traumatic growth. We always talk about PTSD, absolutely real. A lot of my clientele was traumatic brain injury, spinal injury, car accident, stroke, military, absolutely PTSD. But you can also have post-traumatic growth. It takes time. You have to heal.
Yeah.
Both physically, emotionally, mentally. You have to grieve, maybe even if it's just you physically have to grieve what you thought life would look like or your pre-injury illness life, military life, whatever it is. But you can get to a place, even if it's 2 years later, where you go, how can I use this to change my life and change others? Like I realized if I had a healthy childhood, I would never have gone to be a counselor or an educator. I would have been a fashion person or a business person. It shifts you, but in a positive way. That pain can lead to such purpose that shifts other people. So remembering that too, like most people never even heard that there's the ability of post-traumatic growth. Even if you have PTSD, we just hear about the PTSD. We don't hear about there's another side that you can shift and change and grow and become even better or happier than where you were. Not that you weren't great already, but it shifts because your purpose has changed and you've changed. When you go through something traumatic, you're forever changed. And that's okay. It just allows you to go into a different path, a different direction. Your intention changes. But acknowledging that could be a really great change. You might be healthier, happier, have better relationships, connection, just because of that. And I've watched a lot of my clients. They're paralyzed now from their chest to waist down, but they're doing Olympics, the Special Olympics. They're out there. Sometimes when I worked at a rehab, the clients were happier than the staff because they had a different appreciation for life. So we have that ability too as humans, and to not forget that.
And that journey that it takes. I mean, I struggled really bad in junior high with being bullied, and I had a really, for, the small suburban town I lived in, had a really public suicide attempt and, was doing a lot of things where I was acting out. And I remember asking my mom, she's like, well, I'm like, what, we had a very big argument and I'm heated. And I'm like, when is the last time that you've really stuck up for me? And she was like, when you were 12. And I'm like, cool. I'm 37 right now. So that really says more about you than about me. And I'm like, also, if I didn't make those choices, you never would have let me go to a private all-girls school that I asked to go to because we lived in a good school district. My parents paid, they were those people, they paid taxes to live here. Like, you're going to public
Yep.
schools. I'm like, and if I didn't go to that school, I never would have got the education that I did. I never would have got college scholarships. I never would have got led my way into what I'm doing now. I'm like, that school saved my life and it formed me. And so those mistakes, if you even want to call them that I made when I was 12, I'm like, set me on a completely different path than if I wouldn't have done those. I would have went to like a public school. I would have probably got lost in the shuffle, or I would have had a successful suicide attempt because I don't even know if I would be alive because of those things. And like, and everything really, it helped change me into a different way. And it took until I was obviously much later in my life to look back, because when you come back to your small town and that's what people remember you for,
Yes.
the things that you did when you were literally 25 years ago, that's hurtful and it's hard and it's embarrassing. But then I'm like, yeah, but look at me now. If I didn't do all of that when I was 12, where would I have been? Where would I be now? I wouldn't be this woman.
That's why you're here doing this podcast to help other women. And that's the thing. We build resiliency off of tough, traumatic
Yeah.
times. And that's the good thing. And it was never a mistake. It was a teachable, learnable moment that put you into the path of where you were supposed to be, which was to help other women. And I'm sure men too, as well. I don't want to just
Yeah.
say, but this is a pretty much a woman podcast, but
Yeah.
doesn't mean,
We're here for the girlies.
we are, but doesn't mean the wives or girlfriends don't bring it home to their spouses, their kids, their brothers who are men, and pass it on. So you get to help so many people. But right, if you had a normal childhood and didn't go through all that bullying, you wouldn't be here. One of the
Yeah.
greatest things you just said is you advocated for yourself. So there was something in you that knew to do that, which is really great because not everybody would have had that.
No,
So
exactly. I mean, I literally don't know where it came from. Couldn't
mhm,
tell you. I remember looking at the catalog and I'm like, look at these girls in plaid skirts reading Dickens under a tree. Want to point out, I never did that one day at that school. Was I read Dickens,
just
but
gave me Gilmore Girl memories.
not under a well-lit like elm tree. Never got it. That never happened, but read Dickens. But like, I was like, I want to go there and like be like, just study and be a nerd and, learn. Like that was what really drew me. I mean, in that school, I'm on the board and that's what they do. And they still do phenomenal things for the girls there. And so proud of it. But I'm always like, the school saved not just my life, but other people's lives. Like you gave us a home. Like it was a
Yeah.
place where we were allowed to be ourselves and, thrive on those weird A-type nerdy things that we were always made fun of in other schools.
And remembering this too as moms, my daughter's 22, so I'm past this now.
Yeah.
But when she was and it's funny you said junior high because I went to a junior high. I'm from Long Island, New York. So we did junior high, and everybody's like middle school. I'm like, no, you're like one of the only other people to go junior high. So,
Yeah.
Because it was seventh, eighth, ninth instead of like sixth, seventh, eighth. They just did it differently. But when we have our own kids and they go through school and they go through hard times, especially girls, because girls are more brutal at those ages. And it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be physical. It's one day you get to school and no one's talking to you and you have no idea why. Now you have no one to sit with at lunch. And I've had students tell me this, they would eat their lunch in the bathroom out of embarrassment, right. But it triggered when we have our own kids and they have a tough time. And it doesn't have to be anywhere near as tough as us. Or we go into the school and we start seeing all the other moms and the cliques that happen, even with adult moms, it can trigger us back to our own self-esteem, our self-worth, because we remember what it feels like, even though almost everybody's gone through it, even the popular girls, the ones that, we thought their life was perfect. There was one day everybody was mad at them because that's what cliques do.
Yeah.
I'm from the generation of the Breakfast Club. It really kind of looked like that. It was really, the mean girl, the princess and the jock. And yes, it's changed a little and music has changed, but the basic clickiness hasn't changed. And you see it corporately. You see it in school systems
Yeah.
with the moms and dads, or the moms, and, stay-at-home mom versus the working mom. And that, there's still all of that, and it can easily trigger us. And just knowing that's normal. We're going to have triggers, but we get through them quicker. We're more self-aware and we know what to do to help cope or self-soothe, but very easy. And I see this a lot. I went through it. I see it with some of my clients. I've seen it with friends where their kids are going through something and it brings back to their own childhood. I remember what that felt like. Oh my God, is anybody talking to her? How bad that felt. And we'll handle it differently than like if I came home and said something, my mom couldn't care less.
Yeah.
I was in the generation of just, oh, there's a snowstorm and like you have to walk a mile and a half to school because the bus didn't get it. I'll go. Like I remember getting picked up from other mothers and they're like, where's your mom?
Yeah.
She's home. I mean, she doesn't work. No. She's home doing nothing. No, she's letting you walk on main streets in 5th grade in a snowstorm. Yeah. Like not even realizing how bad that was until older, or like watching other moms who were like it wasn't, she was like at work and I had no option. She was just sitting home taking a bath. Like
Yeah.
I still remember some of those things, but I would never have done that to my daughter ever. Like we learn that this is just not right. But these are conversations that need to be had, because the thing you said, and I have felt, and everybody is, we feel embarrassed, but we
Yeah.
shouldn't. Like, like when Facebook first came out and I got on it, I didn't want to see anybody from high school. So I'm like, oh my God, I was the girl. Are you mad at me? Are you mad at me in junior high? What did I do wrong? Like, how annoying is that? And I didn't want to run into them, but I'm like, I'm 30. If people still, or whatever age I was, 35, still thinking that way, it's a reflection of them. Nobody acted great in 8th grade. There was
No.
nobody. We all had our own insecurities, but yet we hold on to that, and then we hold on into embarrassment, turns into shame. And then we bring it with us everywhere, where I've never met a 13-year-old who acts appropriately or has coping skills or doesn't have some insecurity, guy or girl, whatever it is. Even if you had the perfect childhood, which doesn't exist, but let's just pretend, you still don't have, somebody doesn't have insecurities. It might be about what they look like, their body, their face. It could be the insecure from the childhood. It could be because you got hurt by a friend, whatever it is. Boys don't like you, whatever comes up, acne, you still are going to have something. So
1,000%. And you're so hyper focused on it at that moment, because for you in that moment, that is the biggest thing that has happened in your life.
100%. It's your whole life.
It's literally your whole life revolves around this one moment. And whenever you had the privilege of working with, really influential people and around their children, I'm like, doesn't matter how big your parents are, what they're doing, like they're still teenagers or pre-teens and they're still going through the same thing. And no matter what happens, if their parents are like, it's going to be fine, it's heavy sigh, I will, how could you know anything? Like, you don't understand what I'm going through, and like the whole 9 yards. And it's just a super interesting thing, as you pointed out, like it doesn't matter if you're popular or you're this or that, because you're going to get affected by it in some way.
We all go through puberty. We all go through an awkward stage. We all have, different things. Again, I still remember having a friend who, had great parents. I envied that all the time. She just had bad acne and they did everything for her possible, took her to everything, but she still felt that insecure. Even though her skin's perfect now and I don't even remember it, but like at that point, it was devastated because now everybody's looking at you. You're already feeling awkward because you're going through puberty and you know that you're going through the stage. Even though almost everybody else has it, it's like this huge
hyper-focused. Yeah. You're hyper-focused on your own.
It's really, and we get like that as adults too,
1,000%.
Yeah.
If someone's feeling unworthy, like right now, what is the first thing that they should do?
If they're feeling unworthy, it depends. So if it's really affecting your life and you realize that you're not functioning well, you're feeling generalized anxiety disorder, constantly, not stress. Stress is different than anxiety or depression. Absolutely. Please go to counseling, social worker, counselor, psychologist, whatever you want to do, but really get some help to process and to find out what you're holding on to. Because a lot of times we're not even aware of where the self-worth comes from, the low self-worth, excuse me. If it's just you're going through about things are bad and triggered, then it really is about feeling what you're feeling, like identifying it, acknowledging this is what I'm feeling, this is what's coming up for me, not holding it in, pushing it down and letting that embarrassment turn to shame, but really dealing with it, getting a release. And whether it's writing it out, talking to somebody unconditionally, it might also be looking at your life and asking, what's not working? Am I holding on to relationships that are not balanced, that are not reciprocal? Do I not have boundaries? Am I not doing self-care? And a lot of times clients will say to me, I normally do self-care, but I didn't even realize that my life has gotten so hectic and chaotic. And I'm so stressed out that I haven't taken care of myself in 6 months. Like you just get so
Yeah.
wrapped up in just the little things, because when you do something for yourself, and just want to put out here, self-care is daily and preventative. So it doesn't mean you have to get a mani-pedi or a massage. True daily self-care is your basic needs. You're getting enough sleep. What does your diet look like? Are you drinking enough water? Are you exercising? Even if it's just walking, are you getting any meditation or mindfulness, whatever that looks like? Those are your basic needs, and they should be part of your routine. And routine is part of your basic needs. Good morning, good evening routine. So really kind of self-reflecting, where am I in life? Did something happen that changed? Because change, transition always brings up fear and insecurities. Did something major just happen, whatever that is for you?
Yeah.
And do I just need to kind of get back to what I know works for me? Do I have that emotional toolbox and I can just dive in and get back into it? Or do I need more? And that's really kind of where you want to think about it. Because at this moment of my life, I've been through it so many times. When it comes up and I can figure out why it's coming up, what do I need to do? I'm aware of it. And if you're having a hard time thinking like, well, what did I do? You could do here's my last exercise of this, I promise, but it's called the best life story, where you just write out on a piece of paper whatever tough time comes up for you. So it could be a tough time that happened 10 years ago, 15 years ago, or last week. Doesn't matter if it was a breakup, a divorce, an illness, an injury, a loss, doesn't matter what or when. Just write out that tough time, whatever you can remember, using all your details, your senses, write it out. When you're done, a lot of my clients will say, you know what, just writing it out was a great release, if that's what you're holding on to. Or they'll say, wow, I realize how brave and strong I actually am, or resilient. Like I went through that and look where I am now. But the other part it'll show you is when you're done, you can look through it and ask yourself, what did I use to heal? What helped me heal? Like, what was my support system? What resources did I use? Was there anything I reached out to? Did yoga work for me? Did going to acupuncture? Was there anything? And then what traits did I use? Was I persistent? Did I persevere? Did I use patience? Like, what did I use? Because even if it happened 10 years ago, those traits are still within you. Sometimes you just need a reminder of what worked. Was it religion or spirituality? What worked for you? What do you have? What strengths do you have and traits that will get you through this? And you can start getting what helped you in previous times and use it again. And it just allows you to remember that you have been down this road and it sucks, but you've gotten through it. Not only have you survived it, you thrived. Even if you have to use something like the pandemic, that affected everybody.
So, every single person.
Right. How many people pivoted and had to shift their whole life or lost their whole life for a while? I'm not even talking about loss or the illness, just losing businesses and jobs and money, things, even just that capacity along with the loss or the fear or getting the illness or, loss of other people. That was enough. But just really writing it out and seeing. And then you can say, like, what was the lesson? What did I learn about myself? Because that could help you. Whatever you went through before, it shows you that you go through it again, what you did to get through it. And that there is a learning aspect. And you can see the post-traumatic growth as well. So, but again, some of my clients just write it out and go, okay, if I made it through this, I'm good. Like, this still sucks, but like, I know I'm going to get through this. Like, I just needed that reminder that, hey, you know what? You've been through tough times before and look where you are now. And remembering this too, the big picture, whatever you're going through today, change is the only constant. You could feel like shit at this moment, but you won't 6 months from now, next year. So look at it as a teachable, learnable moment. We're all going to have mistakes, failures, setbacks, part of the human experience, but it's what can I learn from this about the situation? What can I learn about myself? What could I do differently? What's the lesson here? What's the aha moment? Doesn't matter what your language is, but just really making those self-reflecting, empowering questions. Not, why did that happen to me? Why? Keeps you in victim mode. It's, what can I do differently? What did I learn? That moves you forward. It's just asking empowering questions because we don't want to just get stuck in that victim. Even if you really are a victim at the moment, you don't want to be there 2-3 years from now. And some people are, they're a victim forever. And we don't want to do that because that keeps you stuck. It's, yes, I went through something tough and I was a victim. Absolutely. But it's a year later. What can I do differently? And how can I recover from that? And again, feeling your feelings, you got to feel to heal, grieving, forgiving, processing, doing everything you need to do depending what you've been through. And forgiveness, it's not just forgiving the other people. A lot of times it's forgiving ourselves. Like when I went through the healing process from what I went through, I remember always blaming myself, but forgiving the other people, but I never forgave myself of like, oh, I would yell at myself like, oh, you should have known better. How did you not notice it? And just forgiving myself for being 13 or forgiving myself for doing the best I could at the moment.
Yeah.
So you got to forgive both sides.
No, and that's so true. And it runs deep and it runs the Banted, but I feel like that it's such good advice. It's hard, but it's exactly what you need to do.
Yeah. Never give up. It's a process. Forgiveness, healing, grieving. It's all a process and nothing happens overnight. I always get asked that, like, how long is it going to take? And I'm like, well, if you're going to put a time frame on it, you've already set yourself up for failure.
Yeah, this could be a minute.
Yeah, it could be, I still remember even in graduate school asking something like that, like how long? And they're like, we can never say how long. Like it's different for everybody because everybody has different stressors, support systems, you have mental illness already that you're dealing with. So just being kind, gentle, not putting a time frame, but knowing it does get better as time goes. I have a dog, so I'm used to that, but he's too big to jump on, but he snores behind me all the time. So
well, we're going to edit this out, Milton. You're really running the Banted today. He's a kitten. So we're getting,
oh, no way. Keep him in. Everybody knows. Like we all do this. My dog snores through some of my stuff. Like literally, I'm like, sorry.
The older cat does that. That would be, that's easier. He just lays. Milton's like, oh my gosh, look at this. Pay attention to me. And I'm like, okay, child, I will be with you in a moment. But to wrap up, I like to ask one final question to all of my guests. If you could give one piece of advice to your 16-year-old self, what would that be?
You know what? Every time I get asked that question, I never really know the answer because there's so many things that I would want to say, but I'd want to say that you're taking everything personal and it's really not about you.
Yeah.
And what you think is always about you is you're really not that important. And not in a bad way. Like we so think we're so important that, everybody's talking about us or looking at us and saying things. And the truth is they're really not. Everybody's too preoccupied with their own lives. And to remember that it's not personal.
Yeah.
Because we do take everything personal. So that's where we go into that insecurity of, I'm not good enough because it's personal when half the time most of the time it's not about us. So
no, it's about everything else and other people's lives around them. So that's a great piece of advice. And I think it's something even as adults, we should be able to remember, like, we don't need to take things so personally. Everybody's got stuff going on in their own lives too.
Absolutely.
So, thank you so much for coming on. This was so insightful. And I mean, a little healing for myself also to hear a lot of this. So tell everybody where they can find you and find your services and your book.
Well, thank you so much for having me. You can find me at my website, which is just my name, dianelang.org. And my new book, Worthy, is finally out, which I'm very excited. And you can see it on my website, but you can get it at Amazon and Barnes and Noble. And it's all about, defining your unworthiness, defining your worthiness, not unworthiness. Woo, couldn't say that. Yeah. I talked myself out today. And knowing the different signs of unworthiness. And it's part journal, which is what I really like. So you can actually do some healing while you're doing it, which I really find effective. Because when I'm reading a book and I like it and there's questions in it, if there's not a journal, I'll never remember to go and do it. Or once a chapter's over, then not to do something else. So I like that I put publisher's idea, not mine, but to put it in there so you can actually journal as you go. So it's kind of like a mix of a book and a workbook, which I
love that. That's going to be awesome. And I'm super excited to dive into it and get my copy. And I hope everyone else does, because this is something we should all really be working on, is the fact that we're worthy. And if this helps just one person, that's really all that matters.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It was so great talking with you.
Thank you. And we'll see everybody next week.